Alright, so it is the weekend, both literally and figuratively, and we are here once more gathered for the brew. We do have several members, not with us in person, but with us in spirit. So, as per has become our usual tradition, a quick update. D. Noble, where were we?
That's a good question. That's like a whole month ago. You think I remember?
Okay. So, what I remember last and where we stopped was we had just escaped the building of terror, and a lot of us were kind of hurting, but Aaron had dipped off by themselves to go handle whatever they were going to go handle. I had Max, Amalia, and or was it Hazel? Amalia. Sorry, I know there's like so many dang characters in my head right now. Amalia, Max, and Charlie had come back to the bar with me. I had just gotten settled, and then all of a sudden Colin came in and said, "Hey, there's a problem out front. You might want to come handle this." We turn around and go back out front, and the wolf had sauntered himself into the bar and was making patrons uncomfortable, and there was about to be a miniature uprising until we asked Charlie to kind of step in and take it from the Anarch side and calm them down. And then I kept the wolf talking, but he still managed to insult people and step on toes. And basically we had a choice of whether we acted on that insult or whether we took it. And most of us took it. And then he wandered off after paying, but it was very much a souring of the moment, and it was a very much realization that now there were definitely lines drawn in the sand, and people were assuming that we were things we were not, possibly. So that was kind of, I think, where we left it.
Mr. Freaking out. I'm not pretty tonight. Don't look at me. Yep. Okay, I remember.
Yes. Tempers flared. There was as you say, a line and sides chosen. And after such a dedicated recap, I would be remiss if not saying thank you to you all for everything that's come before, and hopefully all of the great times that will come moving forward into this new restart, this new post-hiatus blitz, and at the closing of these mini seasons that we have ahead of us. A rejiggering, a reordering, and a renewal, I hope. But either way, it has been fun, it's been enjoyable. Thank you all for your efforts, your time, your energy, and all of the great characters that you've all indelibly etched into my mind and imagination. And without further ado, without beating the horse as if it stole something from us, I'd like to say that this is officially The Brew, Season 2, Rise of Brew City. Grant me one who loves it, and the world is conquered. With the social and their physical gauntlet thrown, with the Rubicon firmly denoted, and the moment, as every moment before it and every moment after it, fading into whatever doldrums of memory and emotion we allow them to. We pick up with the coterie, closing doors, seeing folks off into the night, and once more ensconced in what has become their honeycomb hideout, their central place of power, their meeting and headquarters, the back room of the bar, of the brew house. Colin doing what Colin does, cleaning, straightening, making sure that things are in great repair, or at least useful, while the kindred, the monsters of the night, lick their metaphorical and physical wounds. So with everything that you've all experienced and settling once more into your fullness, what is it that you all would be discussing or planning?
I think once they get back to the back room, Millie's going to go pacing, wearing out the carpet in a line. That was the absolute, almost worst possible thing that could happen this evening. I'm glad we kind of curtailed it, but shit. I don't like what that means. I don't like that they think that this is an anarch hangout, and I don't want to kick out the people that have come to count on us and come to meet here, but at the same time, I think we need some rules. Rules that will keep us from being on the chopping block, because that man very much wants to take our heads off if he can get the okay to do so, and then plotting against the prince, whether we actually are or not, will be seen as reason to take our heads off.
Amalia will just blink at her a bit, like, I only caught a very small bit of that out there. Didn't seem pleasant.
Mike's kind of standing up. As much as, I'm not a proponent for violence, while yes, we do need to set rules for those guys, so the anarchs, so that we know where we are. The adverse is also true. We need to set rules so that just any old person who's Camarilla knows that they can't just come and basically piss in our Cheerios. That was probably even the worst, because if not, then we're gonna have that weird freaky guy gonna come in and do anything that they want. If everyone in the Camarilla believes that we're meat, everybody in the Camarilla will come and take a piece. So we also need to set rules on that side of the fence as well.
Agreed, but we're kind of short on people that are good at fisticuffs at the moment. And there is also the fact that was a member of the Anubi, and I don't know. Well, I have seen him fight, so I can understand why he is fucking terrifying. But at the same time, yes, I agree. It has to be even on both sides. But how do we make that balance? And then there's not only that, we were supposed to go talk to Blue before something or other happens to him, and I don't know how much longer we have until that thing that was supposed to happen to him happens to him, because Calabalashi was here, a night or more ago, so we might be running out of time.
Possibly. I know we have our collective domain. Was here ever recognized as your personal domain?
I think
is that a thing?
The whole area is kind of our domain, because we all kind of live in the general vicinity. I don't know where everyone lives at, but I believe that all of this is supposedly our domain as a whole. So
it's Washington Hill, I believe. Washington Hill area, where the Taco Bell is the center of our domain. I think I'm right on the outskirts of that, if I am correct.
Which means that he came and pissed in our Cheerios as a domain. And while I agree with you 100% that, we definitely need to fix that with the anarchs, I also feel that it's also just as important that we fix it with them, because can you imagine that weird ventral guy that you love so much coming over giggling and doing whatever he pleases here?
Amalia will roll her eyes at that. Not all of us live in our domain. I live more or less just outside of the city.
That was my point. The domain that they gave us to watch over is more centered around the Taco Bell in Washington Square. Those of us that live outside of that direct area are technically possibly in other people's domains, but this would probably be considered my personal domain if I could get it stated as such, and then I would have more leeway as to setting rules as to how people can behave here or not. But it is at this moment a public space, as was so lovely pointed out by the wolf and the Enox on opposite sides.
Right, so we'll add that to our to-do list. I'm sure I will forget about it by tomorrow, so that's your job to remember it. But let's go find Blue.
Great question. Who's Blue?
The voice of the prince?
Yeah, the Central? I believe.
Never ran into him.
He's the guy on the radio.
No, it's not the same man. The older black man who normally is at the meetings, and he's very frank and very old school, and he says things and slaps you on the back and then walks away. Very much riddles that man.
If you say so, I will let you take lead, because I have no idea who this person is.
You sure about the guy on the radio?
Pretty sure the guy on the radio was some sort of DJ.
You've all stayed, DJ Barth. You've all stayed in his haven. You've all partaken of his hospitality, and adding fuel to the fires of the elitism of the tower. You've all interacted with DW Blue as well, because he is an elevated caitiff, for lack of a better word. There is a inherent lack of prestige and acclaim, and many of the roses and blue bloods discount him as an entire entity because of that, which, to be frank, is unfortunately par for course. Part of the immediate issue with him being a vital person, a vital entity of any sort, is because outside of being the voice of the prince throughout the entirety of his mourning period and throughout the entirety of his reign, once he brought peace and praxis to Milwaukee from the madness of Prince Merrick, is that everyone considers him a non-entity. Every one of the elite high clans of Milwaukee considers him a non-entity, even as the voice of the prince. It's an interesting dichotomy, because the fate of the city, or one of the potential fates of the city, rests upon the shoulders of the least of you. And as Mac so eloquently, never met the guy, and then we flash back to several weeks and nights ago, where he's standing less than a foot from him as DW Blue is leaning against the wall and Max is striking a pose looking out onto the stadium, as you all are escorted by D.W. Blue in to see the prince, as D.W. Blue is the voice of reason whispering into the prince's ear as he enters into the room with people that may or may not be worthy of what the prince has laid out. As D.W. Blue is the one who closes the door, as you all hear the massacre taking place inside. As D.W. Blue has sat and listened, because he has been all but invisible to you all, even as you look directly through him, taking in the room of kindred who were being elevated to the primogen, as you all were awaiting the prince's judgment, as you all had to extinguish other kindred's existence, the only voice offering a small bit of, well, you know, these motherfuckers really ain't up to the task, you probably should give them something easy to do. Well, you know, Prince, that these motherfuckers have been outside the general circle of social. Well, you know, Prince. And they're time and time again ignored and invisible.
Yep, never met the guy.
Millie looks at Amalia and just kind of shakes her head. Anyway, perhaps we should get going and get at least that done, and then that will inform the rest of what we need to do. And maybe while we're talking to D.W. Blue, we can get him to understand that we have no designs on taking down the prince, and he could maybe help with declaring domain, or Elysium at least, for my brewery.
Well, there are worse plans. I guess typically we don't have plans. We're just like, we have to do a thing. And then sometimes we do the thing, and sometimes we get distracted. A lot of the times I get distracted. I'm sorry, what?
That's true. I will agree. We just do a thing. We don't really have a plan. We should probably do that this time around.
Agreed. And now that the bar and brewery is locked for the evening, we can take the back door and somebody will drive. I don't know. I think your car is still destroyed, I'm guessing, Amalia, and we took Aaron's car here. I think mine is still parked. My replacement is still parked.
Great.
So, making sure that the brewery is indeed secure for the evening, I guess we head to the car.
Max follows along, looking at the other cars, just kind of seeing which car she gets into. He looks very wary as he wanders behind Amalia.
There is the beauty of it, of living in a police state, that no one ever takes into consideration. All crime in a police state, for the most part, is acceptable crime. Yes, it's a man-made construct just like time, but the social crimes that are taxed, that you can pay a fine for, that you can receive a summons and plead your case in front of a adjudicator, in front of a judge, aren't really crime. Because after all, if you know someone or you have enough money, it's literally just you paying for additional civil liberties. In a police state, those civil liberties are, well, all civil liberties are paid in full in advance. Not so when the situation opens up into a republic. Not so when formerly withheld liberties are granted back. You all as representatives, as voices of the masses, your appearances, your moods and vicissitudes thereof matter more than they have anywhere at any other time in your existences. So as you all leave, locking the doors and making sure it's secure, the number of individuals loitering near at hand trying to catch a gaze of you, trying to get you all to notice them, to importune your time, is, well, damning. It's literally you can feel the weight settling in across your shoulders like wet blankets, holding the full width and weight of the sea around you. It's as if Lake Michigan itself is bearing down on you. All of that weight, all of that pressure. Because as you all move out of the building, you see initially one hanging out, smoking, waiting for the opportunity or the chance for someone, and he perks up and his eyes go big and bright, and you can see him kind of not hopping, not waving, trying to affect a cool to get you all to notice him. And then further on, 15, 20 feet, there across from him, not sharing his space, are another 2 and 3 young, hungry kindred looking to perhaps importune you all, get a quiet word or message. And while you all are looking for your car, your replacement vehicle, the eyes are upon you. It is clear that they're trying to get your attention. Maybe you nod them over, or maybe you close the distance, or maybe you give a sign that you are in fact approachable. Because even though those rights, those social crimes of stalking and importuning your time are more acceptable now, there's still the reality that the Anubi were not approachable. You would call, you would send up a kite, you would, if you saw something, you would say something, you would make sure that you helped them in every way that you could, because if they didn't say you could do it, there's a good chance that you would not live afterwards. A peak of annoyance could be the end of your existence. And if you didn't know, it was better to not ask. And so that hesitancy is still there. You can see, even with the seething, growing spirit of resistance, of speaking their mind, that there is still the immediate memory of not being in groups of 5 or more, hence why that lone kindred is by himself, and why those 3 are over there by themselves, and then that one over there behind the cars, and while that one waiting there at the corner is looking left and right, keeping a watch. They're all separate, so that's not the state of affairs now, and they're all looking for the opportunity of stealing a moment of your time.
Max says very lowly to the other 2, to the ladies present, "Hey, I think they want something. Which one of us is gonna be the person who going to be the approachable one that's gonna talk to them?"
I'm starting to feel like a mafia don, and that I should have office hours to do favors.
Well, we should, but that's later.
Couldn't we just ignore them and keep going?
I agree, but at the same time, if you were them and things were reversed, would you wish to be ignored?
Okay, I got this. Al will look over at people and wave. It's like, we're a little busy. If you want to talk to us, try tomorrow night. Have a fabulous evening, everyone. Keep walking.
I guess that's one way of doing it. And she gets the keys out to her.
Noble, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your charisma and either performance or persuasion for how that lands with that group of disenfranchised youth?
Right. It's amazing. All right. This can go spectacularly horrible. I know it.
I kind of thought it would anyway, but, you know, hey, everyone has their thing.
They're just the young, disenfranchised youth who've never been taken seriously. It'll be fine. Whatever happens, it will be perfectly fine.
I mean, I'm so cute and I look so young anyway. I'm one of them, right?
Hello, fellow kids. Where might I purchase one of your drugs?
Right? Exactly. I know. Haha, did nothing.
Well, there's nothing and then there's nothing. And in the grand scheme of nothing, that is in fact something. While there's never a simple binary pass, fail moment, you get an inclination behind almost everything that you do. You get a feeling, a gut instinct of, oh yeah. Perhaps, maybe, possibly, potentially, tentatively, and then there's that souring, a small flitting thing, because expressing yourself is part of free speech that those who have lived and existed in a police state are still unaccustomed to. Even being in sins and having the fires of freedom struck with that small spark sputtering in the darkness of their soul. What is Amalia's wits? Oh, well, actually, the group, because you guys were all involved, what are your wits? Like your dots in wits, just a standard off-the-cuff, absent awareness.
3.
Oh.
3 here as well.
Oh. Max, are you more than 3 or less than 3? Or are you 3 as well?
I'm fairly certain Max is less than 3, but I'm checking. He's 2.
Okay, so passive awareness of 2. That could have gone far worse. That was actually pretty decent. You see most of them turn away and move about their way. There's no one throwing Molotov cocktails. The youth is perfectly okay. A little disappointed, but that's to be expected. Life is disappointment, and then you create art. For those with passive awareness of 3, you watch as they turn, and that small flitting look of disappointment that you know is already being watered and inflamed by the situation, realizing how bad things were for them and how good it was being left alone, not having to be responsible for your own agency. That fleeting, almost nothing of a response, that look lets you know that while the bulk of those young invisible youth, those children and fresh neonates, that there is a portion of them that were, to put it lightly, offended. And not offended in the modern zeitgeist of I'm taking offense, the world needs to shut down, but offended in, yes, I built tractors, but I'm telling you, your clutch system is all wrong. And being as you shit on me, I'm going to go ahead and build a supercar to compete with that. The old offense of it being used as a prod towards revenge success.
And this is the moment we make enemies.
We have now given birth to our arch enemies.
Right? It's fine. That's how this is supposed to work, right?
Arch enemies? I wouldn't say that. Enemies? I wouldn't even say that. The reality of it is that give it a week, maybe they'll lose the small bit of sour taste, that discord note, that small portion of them that was actually offended, that is actually offended. Given time, they may forget about it. Given time, there's room for uptick. But those of you with that passive awareness, you've seen that look in the mirror when someone's slighted you. You felt that when a passing offhanded remark was perhaps easily misconstruable. The question is, in those moments where you've been worrying about your own reception of what you were given, where it pushed you towards, what did it open up for you in those moments? Because let's be perfectly honest, for all of the issues the coterie has lined against them, all of the moments and things that they are aware of, on the surface, they are the victims of phenomenal fortunes. They are the victims of wild success. They are the fountainhead for which the children, neonates, selfish elders, and Antela don't have to hunt. They are sitting on pretty much a print of money, although that money in kindred is the acclaim, the incidental respect, the now you're big enough to notice. And you all are officially part of the Primogene Council. Anyone watching from half a step away would see that as nothing but success after success after success. And it breeds fans and stalkers and those who get jealous, those who are already jealous. Man, if I had their luck, I'd be doing blah 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 blah.
Y'all better get y'all fans. Y'all stalkers.
Sir, they have yet to kidnap us and threaten us with the sunlight, unlike your fans. Just get in the car.
I know not what you're saying.
Right?
He mocks being hurt and gets in the car.
Clearly, they're not stalkers. My car begs to differ.
I know not what you ladies are talking about. You guys wound me.
Amelia just kind of rolls her eyes. Amelia, shotgun, please. Let the child
Yes.
sit in the back.
Absolutely.
I'm starting to feel that you guys are upset. Like you guys don't like what happened tonight. Tonight was great. Everything is fine.
So watching behind her to make sure nothing's behind, like something jumps out behind her, she backs out cautiously and makes her way towards, I guess where she would guess Blue might be.
Well, the funny thing about Blue, as voice of the prince, he keeps roughly office hours. He's fairly easy to find at Shaker Cigar Bar. If he's not on business of the Prince and not tending to his own affairs somewhere off near the docks, he is typically at Shaker's. It's a good way to incidentally receive whatever grace you might from the Prince, because everyone knows that, well, everyone who cares to notice, and even those who don't care to notice, realize that of all of the many voices of the Prince, either DW Blue or DJ Barth, or in extreme cases Lucina, Queen of the Harpies, that DW Blue is probably about the easiest. You go, you drop off your message, you say what you have to say, and go on about your way, because he ain't got time for the bullshit. Ain't nobody got time for that, the other, or any of that nonsense that y'all bringing. Say what you gotta say. So he's usually quite busy and makes himself easy enough to find to avoid wasting anyone else's time.
How many scarves do you think I'm going to need to knit to help out that situation tonight? She'll start counting on her fingers.
Are we talking about actual scarves, or is this a metaphor for something? Because I don't know what scarves would have to do with what we had happen.
Everyone appreciates a handmade gift.
Max takes out, is there any way for him to connect to social media or anything? Because I know we can't use phones or anything.
Yeah, he's got that brand new MacBook that he still hasn't cleared up the last issues he'd been having with at his condo.
Which he can't get to because he's in a car. Okay. He takes out his sketch pad and begins sketching.
Well, the whole point of not having the phone thing is to not get caught. So if you do have a smartphone, we just weren't supposed to know about it, quote unquote. Anyhow. Yeah.
Max wouldn't carry one on him because, well, you know, that just seems like a bad idea written all over it. So he would just kind of sketch. Thinking about any way that he can get back at the senator who came in and peed in everyone's Cheerios. He's thinking, how can he get around that? Or if that doesn't happen, how would Lucinda get back at him if this was done to her?
Oh, people are smart enough not to greatly annoy her. There's a gift that being petty, being extraordinarily petty and childish, it is the gift that keeps on giving. Because while never, and that's an exaggeration, the never aspect, while never being held accountable for when things go wrong, if people know that you're petty and will visit upon them like for like in the way that you can get away with, I'm not going to disrespect you, but I may hurt your feelings. I'm not going to start an argument with you, but I very well may make it so that everyone who gets called a horrendous name have you to thank for it.
That's what Max is actually thinking, how he can do something so horrendously petty that that guy will leave us alone for a while.
Well, there are several ways you can go about that. You can either utilize your skills at politics, you can utilize your skills at leadership, or you can utilize your skills at subterfuge and concoct an ideal plan that is so childish that it has to be looked past, but so effective in putting home, leave me alone, I'll leave you alone. So raw planning phase, intelligence, and either of those angles to attack from, or your ability to manipulate the facts that are circulating through the city already, which would be manipulation in either of those particular paths moving forward. Roll as high as you possibly can as the conversations wax and wane on your way to Shaker's cigar bar.
Millie would bring up with Amalia, and knowing that Max is also listening, we're not leaving him out specifically, but it's mostly the adults are talking. Looking to Amalia. So the thing is, I remember most of what Calabalashi said, but I'm having a little bit of a problem remembering exactly what we were supposed to ask Blue. I know we were supposed to ask him for some sort of pertinent advice or his opinion on something and take his knowledge so that when he was no longer there, we would have been gifted that knowledge. So do you have any thoughts as to how we might best question him without wasting his time, because you know he does not like time wasting?
Originally you said subterfuge or leadership, and what was the last one?
Or politics.
Okay, so subterfuge. Alright, cool. Got it. Roll coming up.
Well, I know what my family would do, but it's probably not a good plan.
I'm open to anything at this point. I mean, we're just tossing this off on the way there, so please, share, please.
Most of them would just be like, kill it, and then stuff the spirit in a thing so we can talk to the spirit whenever we need to. And she will smile big and grin teeth. Hi, I'm cute.
I see why that is not a good plan for us to go along with. Agreed. And were we anybody else, that would be wonderful, but I don't really think we want to kill D.W. Blue ourselves. If he's going to die, it is best not at our hands, for obvious reasons.
But barring that, if he dies, I can, locate his spirit. If he leaves a spirit, sometimes they just go poof.
The way Calabalashi made it sound is that we don't get this information in time, that we would be losing our access to it. So I am going to assume that he is correct, because how often do you have strange vampires just appear out of nowhere and then disappear just as easily?
Well, there was that time that I was... Oh, never mind. Never mind.
I need to introduce you to more members of my family. Maybe not. It really wasn't that strange of a thing.
I'm so glad. I never thought I'd be glad to be a Venture as much as I am right now, but at the same time...
You're welcome!
Well, I mean, I have many comings and goings with different vampires and kindred, but never mind. No, never mind. He goes back to sketching.
Looks over her shoulder at him. What? And then back at the road.
I think I want to know what that means. I kind of do.
Honestly, No, you probably don't. Never mind. It's best not to. It's kind of a wild party sort of thing. People, never mind.
Does it involve sleeping with dead people? Oh, we're dead. Never mind.
Quite a few, actually, but, whatever.
I mean, like, dead people.
Well, depends. They probably were dying when we fall asleep and then wake up and,
Still not as kinky as my family.
Millie is looking horrified.
You definitely should be horrified.
One time.
You definitely should be horrified.
Here's this cute little girl talking about necrophilia in literal terms.
Well, the troubling aspect of the speaking of where and whom you've partied with, there's a if you know moment, and the truth of just how closely aligned the Hakata and the Roses have been in their various extracurricular entanglements is beginning to show, because as each of you think of those moments, those wild, less than public parties, even amongst the kindred, there is an understanding that both of you all are probably talking about the slaughterhouse parties carried out by Lucina's former primogen. The slaughterhouse parties where everyone would bring 5 to 6 mortals in various stages of decomposition. And the local, at that time, believed to be solely and only Giovanni, would take great pains and pleasures in ensuring that those various stages of decomposition to individuals were filled with the animating forces of some of those gathered. And the times that were had, you laughed, they laughed, the spirits from beyond laughed, and, well, you've never seen a tickle party quite like that since.
Max gives a kind of a very soft, kind of wistful smile as he thinks back on those parties when times were simpler.
It was one of the many ways that the Hakata and the Roses got around the embargo on more than 5 kindred being present at a time. Because physically, many of the kindred present were not there. The bodies they were inhabiting, the souls from across the shroud that were there, it's another matter entirely. They physically were not all together at one place at one time. And as you all ease to a stop, and as per usual in Milwaukee, if you can't park in front, you'll end up parking 4 to 5 blocks away. Luckily for you all, it is late enough in the evening where you all are able to get Rockstar parking right out front.
Oh, well, fingers crossed that this goes well. And off we go. And she slides out, sets the alarm once everybody is out, and heads for the bar.
Okay.
Max looks around to see who's in the general area.
Excellent. Go ahead. Excellent. Go ahead and roll your wits and awareness. And while you're pausing to scan the scene, as you all head in, Shakers is an institution. It's an old school cigar bar, yes. However, for those local politicians, those human breathing, living politicians of the city, it's a sign of Milwaukee's former machine. Not congested and as corrupt as Chicago or Cincinnati. It is just as old in terms of the levels of graft and the signs of ostentatious power. And that's what Shakers represents. As little as, half a century ago, D.W. Blue being in this building would be laughably inappropriate. As little as 50 years ago, the passing by police car would have stopped and gone in to drag him out. But as it stands, D.W. Blue sits at the back booth, much like the paper prince that he is. He is the voice, the longest lasting and most preeminent voice of the prince. He's not seneschal in title, but seneschal in duty. If you see D.W. Blue, you know there too lies the prince's authority. Yet and still, as invisibly as he is in the society, he is a linchpin and has been for generations. Neonates have come and gone. Childer have risen and given way to more fresh-turned Childer. The Primogen has come and gone and come again. And his ill-fitting dark blue suit, fresh off the rack of Carson Peary Scott circa 1962. His wide red patterned tie. His shirt glaringly white against his skin. And his wrinkled visage as he sits there gently puffing away on a cigar that would cost about $30. The patrons, all ward bosses and aldermen from various points of the city, drinking their scotches and their whiskeys and sodas and talking about this and that. And whereas as little as 20 years ago they would be predominantly male, there's a nice almost even balance between the sexes, sitting there in various power suits and polo shirts and otherwise whiling away the taxpayers' dollars as they discuss this, that, the Brewers' chances of going all the way, the Bucks' chance of bringing in more money into the city, and whether they should, follow the Chicago folly and sell away some of the parking rights for a couple of years and see if they can milk that for. And you hear bits of this and bits of that as you all enter. It's a rarity, but they're there late, acting as a shield for any overt kindred business. While as Max takes in the street, the passing police car, do you have any supernatural awarenesses active at the moment?
You mean Max?
Yes.
No.
The passing police car and the various town cars parked up and down the street. It's a quiet downtown Milwaukee evening. A little later than most people would probably be this active, but it's Thursday. It's pre-Friday. These things happen.
Oh, since there's nothing that he can do out here, he pretty much follows the ladies. Into the bar because He doesn't know anything's out of order. Everything looks fine to him.
Everything's fine,
Who
fine.
this guy is. So, it whispers, anybody see the guy that we're looking for?
Lily looks at Max and very unpointedly, but, like, come on, and motions towards the back booth with the man in the blue suit. That's who we're looking for.
The main guy in the blue suit, whose name's Blue. I'd have never thought it.
Really very quickly stifles that Marge Simpson Homer done fucked up groan that is about to spill from her lips and weaves her way through the tables.
Alia will follow Millie, but she is going to look around the bar and see if there's anyone else she might know, or maybe even like what kind of cigars they have behind there.
Most cigar shops keep a plethora of mid-range, fairly economical cigars. $5 to $15. Most have, walk-in humidors where you could go in and sample and take a look at all of the already pre-rolled cigars. One of Shaker's biggest aspects is that they keep hand rollers on, and by hand rollers, there is literally old Cubanos and Salvadorians just behind where normally there'd be a large kitchen. The kitchen, in fact, has been moved downstairs so that they can have the entire space to roll enough fresh rolled cigars to keep up with the demands. On top of what's being fresh rolled in-house, their starting cigar begins at $25 and goes up to $500. There are several different brands that you recognize because they have a shelf life of roughly 24 hours without a humidor, or maybe 5 days inside a humidor. These are the cigars that you make gifts of when someone gets to become a CFO, a CEO. They've just given birth to twins in their 70s. These are the cigars that are in and of themselves a sign of wealth. And the persons gathered here are gathered because of the proximity to not only wealth but power. And while most young-minded individuals would not be able to know the difference between the two, having been educated as you have in the bosom of the Hakata, it is clear who's whom. And while DW sits at a position of power over the gathered, at each of the small enclaves and tables, you can see who is the center, the hub, the spoke from which all things flow at each of those tables. It's laughably obvious. Not just the theater of power, not just the theater of reach. This is where decisions are made that will change family lines. And as far as to detail whom you might see, would you be so kind as to roll either your wits plus leadership or wits plus politics, DC 3 or better, to pick out dignitaries and local political celebrities of reach. And as you all are looking and mingling and making your way towards DW, he sees you all enter as the gaze. Some of the gazes flick towards you all, and some of those don't recognize or don't see who you might be, letting you know that they are not part of the kindred society. Because even as fresh Primogen members, there is an esteem, a respect inherent in that. And so as you all draw close, he sits the cigar down in the cigar ashtray, its smoke being gently wafted immediately skyward, as each table is fit with these fans, for lack of a better word. They're little circulating small pieces that look like centerpieces for the table, but they push and elevate the heavy cigar smoke faster and further skyward, so you get a small whiff of them at each table, but they don't cloy and hang around at table level. They rise above into the smoke eaters just above your head, silently pulling and vacuuming most of the heavier smoke up and away from the conversations and tables around you. Well, this is something entirely different. I didn't expect to see two sets of Primogen now tonight.
Second set of Primogen? Well, we hope it is a pleasant enough surprise, and we'll try to be brief, but would like a small portion of your time if you are amenable to such.
Can't say as I really got much of a choice, now do I? Y'all here now. Sit down if you want to. And then he sits back down.
Millie will nod and then settle herself into the booth and looking to the other two to see what they do.
Max looks at Millie. Well, this is your party. We're just kind of here following.
You see Amalia waving at a guy over in the corner, and then she's like, "Oh, that's not my dad." Oops. And she'll sit down.
Max makes sure to know all of these movers and shakers is not anyone that he might have entangled with.
No one that he would admit to, or that would admit to him in this particular surrounding. He spied a pair of brown eyes. He remembers engaging in long, wistful conversations with one bright morning in July several years ago, after one of his darker shows where he had unfortunately drunk a little too deeply of a particularly strong vintage. The resonance making his limbs heavy, his eyes droop as if he was languorously relaxing in bed, made him not want to do much more than attempt to breathe. And yet they spent the early hours of the morning, the end of his night, the end of his time, whiling away and sampling various. And he shakes it off, realizing that he didn't realize or didn't care what their actual reach in the city was, but that was clearly one of the council women. It was clearly one of the older women of the city. And who'd have thought that she'd have a tattoo of a knife blade where she has it? Interesting. And while Amal
that she owns, the district that she controls, could it be anything used in my master plan?
Only if you probably want to instill immediate reprisal. Going after those particular businesses is a quantifiable attack, and it's not a childish one. It's not a example of, haha, look at me, look at this little dirty picture of X, Y, and Z. It's more of burning resources, their resources. That's actionable. Though the thought is still there. After all, if they don't have money to come after you, what are they going to do? Hunt you down with axes? Huh.
Okay. I make a note of it and go back to looking at Millie and Blue and their interaction.
And while Amalia mistakes a salt and pepper haired gentleman whose hair was clearly auburn or maybe light brown as someone of note and power, as she settles or moves in concert with the others as they get closer to Blue, she realizes she wasn't that far off. There's a guild, a national guild of funeral directors. There are also state-level guilds of funeral directors and city-level guilds of funeral directors. And while most overlook that as a clear and easy resource, the Hecata as a whole typically don't. Controlling the dead gives you opportunity to control the living. And them being here generally lets you know that something is going to be happening to or involving the cemeteries and graveyards and churches of the city soon. Because after all, state-level representatives rarely hang out and schmooze city bureaucrats. So you need some time. What is we here to talk about, Mallory, Millie, Miss Black?
Well, there was an instance at my place of business tonight, and we were visited by none other than the very illustrious The Wolf and his crew. They came to have drinks and intimidate some of our other patrons, as it were. I know it is a free place, it is a public house, as it were, and I was wondering if there would be any possible way for me to see if I could turn my brewery into either a domain personal to myself or an Elysium, as it were, so that it holds to the same rules of Elysium. I'm willing to have both Camarilla and not, as long as rules are followed in my place of business, because business is in fact just that, business. Money is money. But I don't wish to be seen as taking one side or the other, or planning anything against the prince, because that would never be something I would do. So I came to see what your thoughts might be on such a thing, or if you might have any advice for me as to how to best manage situations like this in the future. And then there was something else, but I would like to get that out of the way first. As it were.
Well, hell, be real wrong for me to say much of anything, save for I know what I would do. Anybody comes down to the docks causing trouble, they get trouble in return. It ain't even my domain after all. Not many folks have domains, save you and them motherfuckers from down in Chicago. Officially, The map ain't been drawn yet. If I was y'all, I'd side with them damn Akata and get that neutrality. I don't know why every Prince worth they salt give them as much territory as they can hold. But if they speak for you, everybody under the towers gotta keep their hands off. Unless of course you're trying to operate inside, then you're gonna need a political mover. Ain't like it's that many of them floating around now. We ain't Chicago or Cincinnati or St. Paul.
We do have our ties to the Hakata and could possibly further lean on them. That is one method. Thank you for that, because I did not think of that way of going about it. As far as political movers go, she looks to the other two. I think I am the most politically minded, save our young Aaron, out of the whole group.
It whispers into Millie's ear. Well, if you want, the congresswoman over there, I slept with her once. I could probably see if she would be willing to lean on him, but that's actionable, so I don't know how good that would be as far as a move that we can make without getting an extreme reprisal.
Dude, isn't there anyone you haven't slept with?
You and Millie and Blue.
You forget about me that quick?
Max just smiles.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I'm glad we are all friends here.
Sorry, Millie. Sometimes my brain to mouth doesn't work.
If clutching pearls were a physical being, it would be Millie. Right this second.
Jeez, it's just sex. Don't get your panties in a bunch.
But you!
She blinks at him. I was married young to one man, and he was my first of everything, and I had children with that one man, and I have not had anybody else since that man. Thank you.
Well,
Right, she has babies. Well, they're not babies anymore.
Well, there are several ways to obtain power, or at least use it for a spell. Some people got their way, and while I am with you and disapprove of Mr. Devereaux and the Congress lady over there, the councilwoman, it takes all types. If he's willing to stoop that low, that it is in fact on him.
Okay, so you have given us much to think about in regards to how to gain either neutrality or draw a definitive line to be no longer bothered in certain manners. Thank you very much for that. Now, the second thing, if you will entertain, please, is we were told very vaguely that you might have a bit of knowledge and information that you would like to impart to certain people if we were to ask, and that it would be some matter of urgency, and I am all ears and willing to listen if you would give me such knowledge.
simple, direct, giving you a bonus of +1. Would you be so kind as to roll? You're earnestly not lying, so that's not a real attributive factor. But it is in fact a manipulation because you're using information that very few people are made aware of. So there are two ways you can go about this. Either your manipulation and persuasion, or your manipulation and subterfuge, because you have a bit of information by the simple fact you're able to make that ask. And the moment that
would gaslighting apply here or no?
No, you're not making him believe his senses have been in error. You're not having him believe that something that he's done hasn't been done, or something that you're doing hasn't been done. You're not misrepresenting that. You're twisting a key small bit of information to your benefit. It is factually accurate, and it's true from a certain viewpoint. Mind you, while they're talking, you three are at the table. It's not just Millie's discussion that's happening. You all are, in fact, part of the conversation, even if your part is the silent backup. So while it's clear that he's mulling over and receptive to listening and hearing and understanding what's being said, what are you two doing?
Max is trying to figure out how he could get back at the wolf, but mostly he's just making sure that, like, as people come in and go, he's trying to think whether or not it would be beneficial to pay Lucinda a visit to see if she would be willing to, because he needs to fix that whole thing first, and also maybe give her some tips on being petty.
Amalia will be just like looking at him and looking over at the funeral director, then back at him and off to the funeral director and back. I don't know if it makes any difference, but we were told to ask by a mysterious Tremere from out of, or not Tremere, mysterious gentleman from out of town. Just kind of popped in, then popped right out.
I guess he was a mysterious stranger.
So y'all saying that y'all are here because the Prince of the Quarter is meeting with our prince right now for the next couple of days.
Could put it that way.
Yeah.
She will give her big, charming, cute, tooth-showing grin, smile. I'm cute.
I suppose I got some to spare, I suppose. Yeah, there's of course, trouble brewing on the north side that I'm sure everyone has slowly been picking up on. I don't think anybody's really understanding what that means for us as a whole. You all aware that the north side is, well, everything from Arlington Heights all the way down to Williamsburg Heights. That includes Sherman Park, Amani, Metcalf, and Midtown. You all aware of that, of course, right? Y'all been here long enough to understand what that means and how much of the city is about to get chopped up, small enough for bite-sized pieces.
We were aware that there were problems and that there was also some stirrings from the wilder element of Milwaukee.
And not for nothing, with y'all being right there at Sherman Park, just across the thoroughfare there, just there by Washington Heights, northeast of Wauwatosa. You all are effectively on the north side.
Would you grace us with perhaps giving us a possible what we can expect to happen relatively soon?
A shitstorm.
Well, yes, but a shitstorm concerning the kindred, a shitstorm concerning the newbie, a shitstorm concerning anarchs.
Yes?
A shitstorm concerning those other blood who we don't name. A shitstorm concerning lupines.
Can we just have a checkbox that says all of the above?
That's fairly accurate. Timmerman's about to expand. Timmerman Airport, the regional airport, is about to expand so that it can accept and handle national flights. It means that the value of everything north of 190, all the way as far north as potentially Triplet Park, is going to skyrocket. The condos and homes that grace Haymarket and King Park and the Lower East Side going to skyrocket in value as well. I mean, as you all are spitting distance from Timmerman, if y'all ain't found a way to make yourselves successful, if y'all ain't found a way to dig your hooks here, to navigate and he waves his hand dismissively towards the councilmen and ward bosses sitting at their tables and discussing with the head of the state funerary guild, which lets certain of you all know that it also involves the interred in the various graveyards and cemeteries, which means you're dealing with old money.
They're gonna dig up dead people. That's all normal.
Normal, but with families with old money, those plots are assured for a minimum of 99 and 1/2 years. The payout on those that the city would have to make means that there are massive amounts of funding coming in to turn a regional airport into a national one, providing another egress into the city.
Not cool. That's like my grandpa. Oh, dude.
So, Blue, do you know whose cash is influencing this decision?
I have a small idea, just based on Mr. Rutherford over there.
That's gonna be bad then. We may need to fix that.
What is he trying to fix?
Well, if they're willing to expand to make this a national airport that's going to damage all of our havens, we're going to have a lot of problems if we can't get our area to be protected.
What? I mean, we kind of have our hooks into it. Kind of.
The brewery would be either on the chopping block or taken over somehow and made into homes or high-end condos, I'm assuming.
No.
Or just a landing strip.
Well,
No.
you far enough away from your actual domain, your brewery, for that not to be a real consideration, though the property value is going to go through the roof. So you'll probably have to, be strong-armed into your place. After all, it is quite normal for the small to be chewed up bit by bit, unless, of course, they got somebody big back in that play, right?
Sounds like they do.
Hey, Melody, you know that place where that thing is happening that we don't talk about much? Is that still in that area as well?
The what? And the who?
Are you speaking of Werewolf Jesus or something else?
You know, that thing. Is that in that area? Because I believe it might be. You know, where we had to go and taking care to when your son got lost?
Oh shit. She looks at Amalia. The farm.
Yeah, I got that when he said your son. Yeah, kinda. I mean, she is backing your bar.
But is she gonna back it while all this other money comes in?
Gotta have some place to distribute. You see Amalia roll her eyes like that's so obvious.
She can always buy another bar. We can't actually buy another haven.
But in such a prime location where there's going to be people flying in and out of close by.
Yes, but it's a very niche market.
Not when you're looking at more travel.
Niche market. I never really did study all of that high fangled math, though I hear and understand that some of the money is coming through the Romoli family and Castiglione, along with some folks called Caesarion. I ain't entirely sure, but I think that's what I was told or overheard incidentally, accidentally. I do have.
More or less.
I do understand that y'all got other things that y'all need to be doing right now. Y'all probably should get on to it. And he stands up. Finally.
One other thing real quick. The mysterious gentleman from out of town.
Prince
Also
of the Quarter.
Yes, Prince of the Quarter. Also implied that your life might be in danger.
Which is why getting the information was a matter of short timing.
not meaning to pee on your cigar or anything, but yeah, that might bear some looking into because we kind of like you. You actually are very. Yeah, we don't want you to not be here.
Y'all spoke. I took that y'all spoke and and met with the Prince of the Court. I'm trying to understand. Did he just simply say that, or was there more to it? Because I'm not feeling very charitable right this second.
What? How did he say it? Was it? That the information should be gained before it was lost forever. Was that close, Millie?
That and that Blue did not have long.
Yes.
Shit. Okay.
Do you like underground?
Do any of you all have something to write with? I don't. Son of a. Give me that notepad you had in the car over there, boy.
He pulls out his sketch pad from his inner pocket and one of his mechanical pencils, the .5, not the .7, because he doesn't trust him not to break the lead.
The Prince of the Court is seldom wrong, and especially less so these days. I don't know what he done did or how he got where he has gotten, but and he jots down really quickly a scrawl, thinks about it, underscores, and then writes another line of information. If anything actually happens to me, act on this as quickly as you can. And he hands the book back to you. I have some things I need to take care of. And he turns on his heels, looking over the crowd as if there's a gun pointing at him at any second that we're ready to go off. You motherfucker should have probably told that shit from the... And he just walks out. The fact that he walks around the booth and through a door that's on the other side of that booth lets you know how well ensconced in this place he actually is. Along with the fact that whatever he has been made aware of, he was able to know that you were drawing or using a pad that you put away when you all pulled up front from where he sat at the back of this cigar bar.
I don't know how he knew I had that.
All sorts of things. Give me just a moment. And she will get up and she will go over to the table where Mr. Rutherford is. It's like, Mr. Rutherford, Daddy didn't say you were going to be in town this week. Are you coming for dinner?
Looking very much like the kid who was caught with their hand in the cookie jar, he all but drops it. Oh, Miss Milliner. No, I didn't know that you all would be receiving guests this weekend. I'm only here for the night. Do keep this between us, please.
Okay. I won't say anything, but next time you're in town, you have to promise to come over for dinner.
Of course. I love your mother's long pork chops.
Full. And she will smile at him, like, I am looking forward to having you for dinner. And she will turn and walk away. And she's going to press a little bit of her obvious predator into that.
There's a understanding as to why there is honor amongst thieves. Not simply because betraying your fellow is frowned upon. It usually isn't, because you do what you can get away with. The reason why there's typically honor amongst thieves is because most crews have to start from somewhere. And so early on in that relationship, early on into that exchange of things and doing the job, you only know that person as a person who will steal. So your security has to be on point. You only know that person as someone who's helped you do something violent. So you have to always be wary and prepared at all times, which makes everyone else be prepared. There's honor amongst thieves because the consequences are quick, immediate, and designed to make sure that everyone who hears about it or learns about it understands that you or they are not someone to fuck with. In the doing of the incidental threat, it is very much the reason why those who associate with the Hecata as a whole always hold true. Because there are in fact things worse than death. And his reminder that he enjoys your mother's long pork was a testament of that trust. Having him for dinner was a revaluing of what befalls those who don't hold true, or who just happen to be boring or non-profitable. It is clear that the message was received, and that even as he sits regaining his composure, that things are afoot. But Max having put away the journal, the notepad, the sketchbook, and you all having a few moments after DW Blue has exited the building, what is it that you all do?
Well, I think we should go back to safety to look over what was written in the book, as I don't quite trust this place, and
Maybe we should do it in the underground.
Did we clear the underground?
Max goes over to the Congresswoman.
It's clear enough to a certain point. I don't think they're going to come up to, this. She will describe the area.
Okay, well then we might be able to go there, but maybe perhaps we should go see your aunt first.
Excuse me?
Max goes over to the Congresswoman.
At this hour of the evening, as the old saying goes, there are only two things open, and that's legs. And it is clear that part of the exchanging of information and conversations at that particular table are around hobbies. Hobbies that would get either or most at least denigrated on social media, and probably on several various fetish sites for not being true to the game, not honoring the spirit and trust and accountability that goes along with engaging in certain portions of the lifestyle. As you get there, you don't need a safe word, and you can't hear it anyway with the ball gag shoved it, but you ain't gotta shove it in their asshole first. You gotta put it in the mouth. There's other things you can lubricate it with. You ain't gotta go, oh hey buddy, how you doing? How are you? And the guy who's sitting immediately to Max is right as he gets to the table, with the councilwoman looking up as if she's seeing a walking, talking sex toy, reaches over and pats you on the side of your lawn, saying, "Hey, buddy, you're hanging real high and tight right now, ain't you?"
More low and to the left, but that's a different story. I just came to pay my respects to someone that I haven't seen in forever.
Oh my God, you the goat boy she was talking about? No, that's oh, he ain't the goat. Oh, he looks like it might be. You ever play with a little bit of slave play? You look like right the sort of person I might need. I gotta he's not a professional, but didn't you just say you only dealt with those who know how to make sure it swings the way that it's supposed to lean? He is not one of those. He's one of those artists. Oh, well, why'd you say he was gay? I'm sorry. You and I got the wrong part of friends. I'm sorry about that.
No mention of it. Completely forgotten.
You got any friends that ain't, and he shakes his hand. He hangs it out in front of him and shakes it left to right, looking as if he's suffering from palsy, but you know what that's supposed to mean because it's a very old, very closed-minded way of saying alternative thought, alternative mind, alternative sexuality. Not in the family way.
I know a few people.
Long as they not.
I know a few people.
Long as they not, and he waggles his hands again, we can get along and play. I got this party I'm supposed to be going to. We exchange. No, it wouldn't be your thing. Plus I don't necessarily, want you competing. The horses and the goats already have enough competition as it is.
Fair. Woman, been a long time. How have you been?
Well, dear, as you've seen, I have broadened my palate and have not had the opportunity. The check did it clear, of course, didn't it?
You know, it was such a marvelous night I didn't even check.
Oh, that may explain some small thing, and I'll make sure that I issue another check. Perhaps we could arrange, or at least that's what she thinks it sounds like. In her head, she is as erudite and well-spoken as she has always been. What literally comes out, exactly, maybe next time we can make sure this ain't you, and don't worry about what he's talking. You're not the one. He doesn't know. You're not. But in her head, and everyone else who is equally as inebriated and nearly so as her, why, yes, I'll make sure that the check clears this time around. Perhaps we can arrange something. You do have my office number, and while I know that we have to keep up appearances for my table guests, it is.
Fact actually uses just now the other people who's talking, I'm assuming they're also movers or shakers, right?
Yes, you have landed firmly smack in the middle of the hornet's nest of political power. You're firmly at the secretary, administrative assistants, council persons for the entirety of a small section of the east side of the city. It is the southeast side of Milwaukee is an affluent area, not just in terms of the old blood and old families that live there, but also in terms of developments. What does land in that side of the city, there southeast of where most of you all assist, and just slightly north of where Amalia's actual residence is old money and new money of commonly referred to a metric shit ton of crypto, financial, stock trading, immediate Silicon value wealth. It is the place where once you reach the point where you're no longer rich and you are wealthy and your child's child's child will be wealthy, you move to and you improve. You make endowments and you build an estate that is hidden behind a lovely standard Midwestern gray stone. Your yard is quite small, but per square foot, unlike the average of about $105 per square foot. You're paying somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 6 numbers beyond the decimal per square foot.
Okay. Using just to kind of ingrain my visage into their minds, even though they're pretty drunk and adult. He's gonna use these people a little bit later, just not right now because they're not much use right now because they're drunk.
No, you've given them and anyone who is watching a clear, lovely, burned image of you into their retinas. All makes it so that you are, well, relatively unforgettable, relatively unmissable. People will be talking about that moment. People who have not been exposed with any regularity will be talking about that moment for weeks, months, perhaps even longer, because even through the haze of inebriation, there was something magical. You just had to be there. The way that he spoke, it was like, and while all of that is happening, it is 45 after the hour. Let's be back at 55 and continue with whatever you all are planning to do with the last few moments of your evening, considering you all watch DW get out of there as if his hair was on fire, which is saying something considering he was not only balding but keeps it extraordinarily close cut. Hello everybody. Everybody back?
Hello.
I am.
Yep.
Excellent. So as Max is returning to the table, what, if anything, has Millie and Molly been discussing?
I think we were in the middle of deciding whether or not we were going to stop by and see her aunt before we went underground to read the note and get some protection.
Oh, by the by, ladies, I got a thought process that's working that I want to throw out there so before I forget.
Does it involve more sex?
It could, but not at this moment. But now that you think about it, it could definitely include sex. But what I was thinking was, if they're going to renovate that area for the airport, what does that mean for the lower deck area?
Well, I would need to take a map of the city down with me and map where under it is. I mean, I have a pretty good idea, but I don't know, like, exactly, like, place for place. And there's lots of exits that I haven't gotten near to, because I've mostly just been in the bulk of the heart of it.
Well, I was more concerned that, if they have to renovate the area, they're going to have to reinforce the concrete. And when they see that there's a lot of not concrete under the area, that might be a problem.
It could be. I mean, honestly, I just feel like it'd be more like a shaft or two that's closed up. It's like, how do you explain it? So it's kind of like a spider. You have the body and then you have the legs.
Mm-hmm.
So where the body isn't where they're digging.
Yes, but I'm more concerned that if they look at a leg, they say, I wonder where this leads. And then that information gets out, and that becomes not good.
Well, we could collapse the tunnel. I mean, I'm not terribly great with demolitions. I mean, by terribly great, I mean not at all. It's also possible that it's not being used and has collapsed naturally. Or there might not even be an exit near there. I don't know.
Yeah, we might need to map that, just to be on the safe side.
That is something we should take into account, but the fact that Blue out of here in a fair hurry means he knows something that we do not. So we should probably get going, one way or the other, as time is short.
But I can't help but wonder, did we lead him to perhaps, running out, and then what if he gets unalived as he's running away from us telling him that he's going to be unalived? I mean, I won't feel bad, but I know that you're kind of touchy about that sort of thing.
The thing is, he seemed that he wasn't all that surprised. He was surprised, but at the same time, he wasn't surprised.
Why don't we get out of here so we can speak a little freer?
Sounds like a plan.
And so we do.
And she will turn around and wave at Mr. Rutherford and head out.
There's a cost to doing business. The eventuality of all things is that eventually everything will be cold and black and lifeless. The eventuality of business is that someone will always pay, one way or the other. And the eventuality of leaving Shakers is the quietude and security of the car. You all are mostly meandering aimlessly. Going southwest would take you towards the nearest enclave of the Hakata, or more specifically of Miss Rossellini, Pater, Rossi. Going northwest would take you towards your Capitol Hill domain. Going east and slightly south would take you back to the brewery. The question is, where are you all heading?
Probably to Miss Rossellini first, because her name was mentioned kind of in circuitous route of Blue saying that maybe the Hakata would get us a neutral status, and then they are also loosely tied to what all is going on with the airport thing, so that would solve, or at least give us information on two different things.
Okay.
While she's driving, Max takes out the notepad and sees what Blue wrote in it, to see if it means anything to him.
Merrick's wife isn't dead. Merrick is the source of the ash, and Mercer is alive in Indianapolis.
Well, interesting. He passes it, he takes that page, rips it out from his book, and passes that page up to Amalia, since Mel is driving. Hey, pass this note to Mel, please.
He's driving.
Millie.
I didn't say give her the letter. I just said just tell her.
Alright, she will read it out loud.
One second. Well, just to save time, Merrick's wife isn't dead. Mercer is alive in Indianapolis.
Merrick's wife isn't dead. Mercer is alive in Indianapolis.
And Merrick being the source of the ash. So, there's that.
Does the last name Merrick hit any points for her? I do think she would know that the Princess Childer's last name was Mercer, and that they were looking for her because that was the whole point of him going into mourning.
Mm-hmm. Merrick, as in Prince Merrick, was the prince who all but laid low both Milwaukee and Chicago in his insanity and grief over the death of his wife. He'd taken and ghouled and bonded a lupine as his wife, a witch who was related to those furry monsters of nightmare. Her death and the effect it had on the peace between he and the lupines nearly drowned Milwaukee and Chicago in blood. It was a rallying cry for the lupines who laid siege to Chicago and Milwaukee during the War of the Blood Red Moon during the early 90s.
That is not good news. That is not... Oh, shit. Mercer...
Anything with Werewolf Jesus or anything?
Possibly. Mercer was the former prince, the super crazy one that allowed... or pissed off the lupines enough for them to almost destroy Chicago and Milwaukee. Because he ghouled a lupine and made her his wife. And for his wife, the lupine ghoul, to be still alive. Ah, shit. And Mercer is Anna Mercer, aka the prince's long-lost, thought-dead daughter.
So we need to take a trip to Indianapolis.
Unless you know of a lupine that I could go. That sounds kind of kinky. I like it.
Stop. God. The story of Jesus. Jesus had a mortal mother, Mary. Lupines are born, not exactly made, as far as I remember.
So, are you saying that I should find a lupine toddler?
looks at Amalia, like fists going tight on the steering wheel. You get what I'm saying, don't you? That our lupine Jesus will come of his probably psychopathic lupine Gould mother, who is married to the formerly batshit crazy prince, who is also the source of ash. I don't know how much you know about ash, but it creates whites. It is the only drug that affects us directly without being ingested through blood.
Well, it's hard to explain. It's unlikely to happen in one generation. It's usually like multiple generations of selective breeding and, making rose bloom blue instead of like another color breeding. But sometimes magic happens and the baby is born a ghoul, kind of. Not really a ghoul, but like they have like the extra abilities without like actually having to do the thing with the blood. It's rare, but you can breed it. I'm not
nice.
as well. No, shut up.
Well, at least we know who this werewolf Jesus is. Granted, he is supposed to destroy the city, but But good news is, or maybe bad news, if they don't know about the underground city, we can hide there. If they do know about the underground city, they're probably going to come out of the underground city, which is a bad thing.
What have I said about reflective surfaces?
So we should assume that they know about it?
It doesn't matter if they know about it or not. It's a reflective surface. They can go in and out. At least according to the lore.
They can't jump to it.
So wait, lupines can travel through mirrors.
Legend. So like you know how like sometimes when you like go swimming and like everything under the water is like it's the real world, but it's kind of like weird. Basically they're walking through a place like that.
So can they come out of cop glasses?
It has to be reflective.
Cop glasses are reflective.
This is all based on the legends. It's like it's a good thing. I probably is right. But I have not met a werewolf that have sit down to talk to me, so I can be like, hey, so what is that other thing like? Where you go through the water and then you come out the other end of like a mirror? What's that like? No, I haven't done that. I don't know if it's completely 100% true or not, but that's just what the legends say.
At this point, I'm willing to believe that some of anything is fucking possible.
It's kind of like the big circle spiral thing down in the basement that like fairies might like.
Well, what's a good place to hide? That's the important thing.
And it's
on
funny,
Mars.
and it's funny you should mention that, And Mars, as mentioned, as you all ease to a stop at North and 56, looking at Venture, excuse me, at Venture Brew Company, the center of Fiorello Rossi's empire, or at least was, and still is very much accepted and respected as the Hikata domain in Milwaukee. Which is weird considering that, there are 3 major Hikata enclaves in Milwaukee. But this is officially recognized as the first among equals, the most prevalent. And it is less than a full mile from the Capitol Hill domain. In fact, if you were to take 60th straight north, you'd be there in, with traffic, 12 and a half minutes.
They're awfully close to us. Not that, that's a problem, but they are awfully close to us. Maybe we can leverage that. Keep us safe, and we can be a bulwark from any other enemies.
Us and what army? You forget. The one gangrel we had is staked still somewhere in my storage room. Aaron is unreliable at most and has his manservant doing most of the fighting. Charlie comes and goes as they please.
True. But I was trying to keep the peg as being the unreliable, sexy one, but I guess I have to share that title. Well, at least the unreliable part.
Trust me, nobody beats you at being near utterly useless most of the time.
Thank you. You say such the nicest things.
And as is always the case when it comes to parking in Milwaukee, either you get Rockstar parking or you need to park several blocks away. And while the area, which is, North Washington Heights, South Uptown, which is effectively what the area is very much not that different. To roughly a block and a half due west of where you all are, there's the African hair braiding salon. There's a Taco Bell across the street from there. Directly across the street from Venture Brewing is, of course, Welk's Florist. There's Heaven's Table due east. It's a fairly busy late night area between the taco joint near 54th and the Taco Bell near 57th. There's a lot of foot traffic. There's a lot of people passing by. No one would ever expect that the hellmouth that is most Hakata temples is right here at the 24-hour coffee shop. No one would expect that it is a haven for horrors. No one would expect that the lovely hidden speakeasy is the gateway to eternal shadow. And yet it is. Nice, relatively brightly candlelit place where you, the family, the friends and associates can play board games or card games at a table while souls are being stripped from bodies and bodies are being stripped from existence. So do you all enter or do you sit in the car and finish the
I believe if we're gonna go in, we should probably have Amalia go first. They tend to like her, at least more than us just walking in.
Yep, this time it's you taking the lead.
Oh, goody. There's no way this can go horribly wrong.
Usually, no.
Well,
The rules of hospitality are fairly clear.
It could go wrong if I go first.
Normally, even that would not be a wrong misstep because the laws of hospitality are fairly clear. There can't be any direct issues between Hakata and Tower. Save, you all are in bed with the Hakata. You're not holding them at bay. You're not interrupting the flow of their business, which means you fall under their purview when you're in their building, on their premises, which is a loophole to interfering because you are effectively partners. You're in bed with them.
Right. Let's do this. You haven't been here before, have you? Either of you? Just watch your step. Don't step on like anything except the floor. And even then, be careful. She'll get out of the car and go in.
When you're here, you're family, or something like that as you walk into Venture Brewing. It is a nice place. There's an upstairs, several tables and spaces. There's a open floor plan in regards to how it's situated. The tables are set up so that the flow of traffic has been designed on the easiest way to get to and from the door and back and forth to the counter. Now the counter is at the furthest southeastern portion of the room, with the door at the furthest northwestern portion of the room, meaning that the space where the tables are seems far less congested because in the window there's seating, there's little odd nooks and crannies where people can pop a squat or share a table, share a conversation. There are one or two long banquet tables where you can sit and play games with you and 12 of your closest friends. And then there's the counter itself, designed to be at the roughly perfect height for the average person who's a little shorter than the average. It is just tall enough that a very tall person would not have to bend over or hunch to reach it. And the persons behind, where you normally expect bright aprons with name tags, they're in flannel shirts and t-shirts. They're casual, they're happy, they're healthy. They're still, folks wearing beanies and surfer cowrie bead necklaces. There's conversations about why wax is a better music delivery system than digital. It looks nothing like most would expect from the Hakata. Posters of bands that have played only one show or never played a show, bands that are locally famous or locally infamous. There is all manner of just outside the pale niche art memorabilia, signed and autographed. The smell of roasting beans permeates, and it smells nothing like you would expect for a Hakata enterprise. And yet, those of you with auspics, those of you with animalism, those of you who've been the victim of dominate or presence, those of you with the understanding of magic, an occult of two, an awareness of one, feel it the moment you step in. It feels as if you've become liquid metal and stepped through a cracked mirror. The warm, cozy, open, inviting aspects of Venture Brew do not hide the very reality that you are in a place of death, that you are in a place of magic, that you are in a place of power.
Okay. Everyone here. Everyone made it through. Everyone's feeling okay.
The girl behind the counter, a natural blonde who has her hair dyed several shades of color from fuchsia to pumpkin. Welcome to Venture Brew, where everything's an ad. What can we get started for you?
Actually, I was hoping to speak with the missus.
Were you looking for a cafe Americano or a cafe Siciliano?
Liliano, please.
Oh, you guys are for the party room. 1 second, Jeff will take you back. Hey, yo, Jeff! The pause is deafening. There's no response. There's no answer. And while you know that it is not the case, and you know that the floor isn't rumbling bass-like with each step, no one's that heavy, no one's that big, no one's that massive. Yet as Jeff seems to suddenly appear in the door, matching the encroaching footfalls, it's hard not to. It's not impossible, but it is highly improbable that he was not the source of that feeling, as if the room has suddenly gotten smaller. His style of dress almost the antithesis of casual. The bright red smock-like apron that he's wearing, barely concealing that he is wide enough to quantify as needing 2 or more seats on every airplane. The brightly unstained, almost perfectly pressed apron sticking to him as if it is a second skin, allowing the fact that he has no animosity towards you shine through, because there's no way that if he flexes that apron doesn't go flying like a unleashed rubber band. Does anyone have any supernatural senses or awarenesses active at the moment?
Nope. I think Millie would literally just be staring up because she's much shorter than him.
Not active, but I do have Sense CNC.
Max has Auspics, but not active currently.
He's just a big football guy. That you see a lot of those everywhere, except for he's a little more tan than he should be. His eyes seem a little empty, yet there's clearly some intelligence about him, because he's waiting for you all, and he says in the most delicately falsetto voice, "Right this way." if you'll follow
All
me.
right. Thank you, Jeff. Follow along.
There's a saying, an aphorism that everybody understands: the blind leading the blind, meaning that someone who doesn't know and can't see where you're going, leading the way into the great beyond, the great unknown. That doesn't apply in this situation because it is clear to Amalia that Jeff has been soulless longer than most of you all have been kindred. There's a weight of a variety of essences. Since the supernatural, since the unseen is in the system, it is not always a visual thing. It is a crawling along the skin. It is a tightness at the brow. It is something ineffable that your third eye is aware of, that your soul feels through the flesh. And as you all follow along behind Jeff up the stairs, through what should be the end and back of the building into another space, the decor around you changing and shifting from middle American hodgepodge punkish aesthetic to a palatial Italian villa in terms of design and decor. There is the immediate pressure and weight across Amalia of being in the presence of a multiplicity of souls. There's a lot of words for them, a lot of fancy terminology, but in her practical understanding of how to get to this point, you take a jar the size of a small plate space heater filled with different souls, and you pour them into a corpse, binding each of those souls to your will and your whim, so that there is a gestalt being, loyal, strong, willing to die 100 times because they have 1,000 souls bombarding the inside of their being. It is usually done with a great massacre. It is usually done through the sanguination of a ancient kindred, someone who has reached the end of their road and wants to explore the great vistas beyond the veil. It usually comes at no small cost.
All right. We're here, more or less.
Led through the building, you guys are guiding into an office where it seems as if Fiorella Rossellini has already been waiting for you all, because sitting at the table is Max Castiglione, a character in their own right who has carried weight throughout the Haggadah from the south to the north, acting as emissary and go-between between families, all up and down the Midwestern Mississippi Valley. Come in. We have some things to discuss. And as Fiorella stands and motions to the chairs, waiting for you all to take a seat, I'd like to thank you all for a lovely episode. I look forward to seeing you guys next time.
We didn't die.